let's talk about one of the least fun, least Instagrammable parts of ADHD, rejection sensitive dysphoria, or RSD. It sounds like something you'd catch from a gas station bathroom, but no, it's basically when your brain takes every hint of rejection, whether it's real or imagined, and cranks it up to the size of a Category 5 hurricane. Like somebody forgets to text you back, your body responds like you've been publicly booed off stage, like at Madison Square Garden. Now, here's the kicker. Most people have no idea what RSD even is. Hell, even therapists don't know because it's not an official term. It's not in the book that psychiatrists use to, make things count as a diagnosis. But you know what? That's like half of our emotional lives. And because it's not listed, a lot of people walk around thinking that they're just too sensitive or bad at taking criticism. And meanwhile, they're actually dealing with their nervous system. It's treating every sideways glance like a punch in the face. And here's why we're talking about this. Because once you name it, once you realize RSD is a thing and not just you being dramatic, everything starts to make a lot more sense. And then you can stop beating yourself up for overreacting and start actually managing it. So let's dig in. What does this thing look like in real life? Picture this. You send a text to a friend. They don't reply for a few hours. Now, a neurotypical brain goes, they're probably busy. But an RSD brain goes, oh, great, I've done something wrong. I've ruined the friendship. They secretly hate me. They're probably in a group chat talking about how annoying I am. And then the next thing you know, you're spiraling over this one simple unanswered text. Or maybe you post something online and instead of counting the 50 likes it got, you're obsessing over the one person that didn't respond. Or worse, the one person that put a passive-aggressive emoji out there. That one little thing, it lodges itself in your brain like a splinter. And now it's the only thing you can think about. Now, at work, it might also look like this. Your boss says, hey, can we chat later? And that's it. That's all they said. But in your brain, it's full-blown panic. You're imagining that you're about to get fired or blacklisted or publicly shamed on LinkedIn. And by the time you actually have the meeting, turns out the only thing they really wanted you to do is submit your timesheet. Now, this is why RSD is so exhausting, because it's not just the actual rejection that hurts. It's all of the imaginary rejection that we create in our own heads. And we react to those fake rejections as if they are real, which means we are constantly running on fight or flight mode over things that never even happened. Does this sound familiar to you? If so, that is RSD. So how does all this rejection sensitivity actually screw with your life? Well, spoiler, it's in every direction. Now let's start with relationships. When rejection feels like death, you might avoid relationships altogether. Because why risk being dumped when you can just not date? Or on the flip side, maybe you cling too much. Every little sign that someone's pulling away sends you into panic mode, and you end up overcompensating or texting them too much, apologizing for breathing, bending yourself into a pretzel to avoid conflict. It's not healthy, but it comes from this fear of being left. In careers, RSD can be paralyzing. You might not apply for jobs that you're perfectly qualified for because the thought of rejection feels unbearable, or you avoid sharing your ideas at work because what if they think it's stupid? So you sit quietly while someone else says the exact same thing that you were thinking and then got the credit. RSD kills more great ideas than bad bosses ever could. Even with hobbies or creative stuff, RSD sneaks in. You don't share your art or your writing or your music because you can't handle the idea of people criticizing it. So the world never sees it, and you're left convincing yourself that it wasn't even worth sharing in the first place. And here's the thing, RSD doesn't just block you from doing stuff, it also makes you overdo stuff, like over-explaining. You send a one-line email and then spend an hour crafting a perfect follow-up just for clarity, or you apologize 12 times for something no one even noticed. That is RSD driving the bus. It's not just inconvenient, it shapes the way you live your whole life. When I first heard about RSD, I was reading an article on my phone. I was in bed. It's probably been about 6 months ago. And it was the first time I'd ever heard of it. It was unbelievable that I read it because I was like, this is such a huge thing in my life. I never even knew existed. No one's ever said a word about it. Not people that have ADHD, not my therapists, not doctors. And so I was just blown away and kind of really helped me realize that I really did have ADHD because this is such a prominent thing in my day-to-day. Now, here's the twist. RSD isn't just about fear. It's about intensity. Now, intensity can cut both ways. The same brain that feels rejection like a lightning strike also feels joy and creativity and connection at a 12 out of 10. That's why people with RSD can be some of the most passionate, loyal, driven humans you'll ever meet. Because when we care hard. Now think about it. You've probably had moments when the thing you feared, that rejection, that failure actually happened. And guess what? You survived it. It wrecked you for a minute. And then you got back up. Duh. That is not weakness. That's resilience. And resilience is a skill most people don't have because they've never actually had to build it. So yes, RSD can make you feel like you're walking around with a heart on the outside of your body, but it also means you're more tuned in. You pick up on the vibes in the room before anyone else. You notice the little cues, the little shifts, the silences. That sensitivity, that's information. That is power. The trick is learning how to use it without letting it wreck you. So what do you actually do about it? How do you live with RSD without letting it drive your life off a cliff? Well, first of all, you name it. Seriously. Just being able to say, this is RSD talking, is a game changer. It's a game changer instead of saying, I'm crazy or I'm too sensitive. It becomes, oh, right, my brain is doing the rejection thing again. Now, it doesn't erase the feeling, but it does put a label on it. And once you label it, you stop treating it like it's truth. Now, second, buy yourself time. You don't have to react instantly. Not every text requires a dissertation level apology. Not every pause in conversation means they hate you. Give it 10 minutes or an hour, a day. Half of what feels like rejection turns out to be nothing if you just wait long enough to see it clearly. Third, build a filter. Ask, do you have actual evidence or am I just making this up? Did my friend actually say they were mad or did they just use fewer emojis today than normal? Separate the facts from the horror movie your brain is screening in the background. Fourth, allow yourself to screw up. You're going to send an apology text. You'll avoid things you wish you hadn't. You're going to misread a situation and it's going to make you spiral. And that's just part of it. Beating yourself up does not help. The goal is not perfection. It's actually recovery. shrinking the time it takes you to bounce back. And finally, stop giving it your keys. You have already lost enough time, opportunities, and relationships to this fear. At some point, you've got to decide, am I going to keep letting this invisible rejection monster run my life, or am I going to see what happens if I push back? Because spoiler, the world does not implode. You survive. And on the other side of that survival is a little thing I like to call freedom. If you're walking around with RSD, you're already tougher than you think. You have taken hits most people never notice, but you keep moving, even when it felt impossible. Now that is not fragility. It's proof. It's proof that you can handle this. So here's the deal. If you've ever replayed a text message for 3 days straight, wondering if you sounded needy, and yeah, you probably know it's a little something called RSD. If you've ever quit a job or a friendship or a group chat just because you thought someone was mad at you, hey, like I always say, welcome to the club. We have matching anxiety sweats. Soon, I promise. And if you've ever been told you're too sensitive or too much, or my personal favorite, intimidating, you're not broken, you're not weak, you've just been carrying rejection like a damn backpack full of bricks, while everyone else is walking around empty-handed. And you're still here. So if this hits home, if you're nodding along like, oh crap, that's me, then do me a little favor. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next video. Drop a comment and tell me your most ridiculous RSD moment. The thing you look back on now and thought, wow, I really thought that was rejection. I promise we've all got one. And if you know somebody, anybody who needs to hear this, send this to them. Consider it your good deed of the day. Because we're not doing shame here. We are not doing pity parties. We're doing honesty, sarcasm, and a little bit of holy crap. Maybe I'm not alone in this. And that's it. Thanks for hanging out. Now go do something that scares the living bejesus out of you and watch how the world doesn't end.